everyone, welcome to Studio TK's basic twining tutorials. We're just going to dive right on in and get started. We're going to discuss our materials and supplies and our little loom today. So fabric, virtually everything can be used, from a nice cotton, flannel, t-shirt material or knit material, microfiber polyester blends, and of course good old denim. Now, I keep two things in mind when I'm preparing my fabric. The first is weight. So something like this denim, of course, when it is twisted and compressed, is a lot more thicker than something like this polyester blend when it is compressed. So when I'm preparing them, I always cut my lighter fabrics larger than my heavier, denser fabrics. And like I said, that'll help keep a much more even thickness of a twine textile. Another thing that I keep in mind, excuse me, is the stretch of a fabric. So something like this lovely old t-shirt material, it's pretty good and stretchy. After I've prepared it and I go to use it, I always give them a good tug, because that takes a lot of the stretch out of it. But as you can see, it slightly stretches, goes back onto itself. So I prefer to use t-shirt material with t-shirt material. That way, when I take the rug or placemat, whatever you're making, off of the loom and it springs back on itself, my selvages are still straight. And to me, that's important. Also, I like the feel of a t-shirt bath mat, let's say, underneath my feet and not mixed with some other materials. But they can be used together. I most certainly have done that. You have to take in consideration, of course, is your tension when you are using the t-shirt material strip as opposed to using the cotton, let's say. But like I said earlier, everything can be used. Just keep in mind that your weight of your fabric and the stretchiness. So when it comes to preparing my fabrics, I always rip. Now, I like to rip them just because it's less time consuming, number one. And number two, I like the little frayed edges on the sides of the fabric. I just think it adds a little bit more texture to the textile. Some people, though, swear by cutting, which of course you can. That's all personal preference. They also say that apparently you don't have as many strings or threads. Now, I've done both, and to be quite honest with you, no matter what, you will always have strings because it's not hemmed, right? They're not hemmed string pieces. So before I go to use them, I take the time and I pull all the little threads off. Another reason behind this is because if you do not pull these little threads off, you will end up with quite a mess when your rug or placemat is finished, and have to spend a lot of time taking those off. So that's just a little side tip. Something else to keep in mind is, and this is good for quilters, let's say, is you will have snippets if you want exact rows of exact same colors. So those little snippets I save. I have tons and tons of them, and then on a very snowy, cold, wintry day, I take the time with my sewing machine and sit down and sew them together to make some nice long strips. And that's what you want. Very nice long strips, and then you have less joints, and less joints makes a sturdier textile. So a few other things that you're going to need is your scissors. I like these big guys for when I'm ripping. I make little snippets at the top of the textile and rip away. And the little guys, well, they're just extra handy for joining and, getting rid of threads and stuff. you want exact rows, which I will show you how to do that in the next video, you're going to need some needle and some thread, in whatever color you choose. Clothespins or these little bag clips, they come in very handy when we flip the loom and we want to keep the excess fabric out of the way that we're not using at the moment. And two of my favorite tools, well, one of my favorite tools, I should say, hemostats or a crochet hook. Now, when you get to the middle of your textile and you're just about done, let's say the last 3 to 4 rows, you'll have a hard time getting your fingers in there to do the twining. So a crochet hook or hemostats come in handy. Now, I'm not a crocheter. I don't quite have the knack of manipulating this little hook, but I absolutely love my hemostats. So you can get these off of Amazon. They're quite reasonable. But like I said, it's a choice, whichever one that you want to use. Another thing that I recommend is a tapestry needle to weave in the ends. If you don't want to use a tapestry needle, you can use your hemostats, which is my favorite way to weave in my ends, but a crochet hook would work too for that. Now our loom. Twining is, this style of twining, basic twining, is done on a frame loom. So it's quite simple actually. You can actually use an old picture frame really. But I had my father-in-law make me this. It's a good little size for a hot plate or a trivet. So anyways, it's just made out of 2x2s that he just cut and screwed together for me. Some eye hooks, some nails, and these steel rods. So the steel rods are extremely important. That's what holds your salvages nice and straight. So keep that in mind. They're a necessity for sure. I get these at the hardware store, and you can even ask them, they'll bend them for you at the top so they don't fall out. When it comes to the nails, some people prefer to use dowels. I prefer nails, because it's quick and easy to put them into my loom. Also, the dowels, when you pull your textile off of the loom, the dowels will leave a bit of a gap at the top of your textile, and I don't particularly like that. But it's, like I said, it's a personal choice. When it comes to the nails, you want to find ones that don't have a head or much of a head at all. And when you put them in, I space them a ½ inch apart at the top and at the bottom. You want to have the same amount of nails on both ends. And like I said, I like a ½ inch. Some people like an inch, but I prefer a ½ inch apart. Once again, that's a preference. When you go to start to put your nails in, keep in mind that these nails that are closest to the rods should be relatively within, I'd say a ½ inch or so to the rods. And I will explain that later to you as to why. So if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment and or get a hold of me on Messenger. I am more than willing to answer all of your questions. And anyways, I will see you tomorrow, and we will learn how to warp our loom. Thanks, everyone.